Welcome back to In Case You Missed It. Today we are covering a lot of topics, but hopefully brief and quick and to the point. We're going to give an update about the Arizona legislature, what the heck's going on with the banks, and of course we're going to do a little update on DACA. But before we get into it, with everything being so overwhelming, I know I've been reflecting a little bit about like what gives you peace in moments that are chaotic. And for me right now, it's not so much like there's different ways of peace, right? It's like that, like when your soul feels at peace or when your heart feels at peace. But right now, I think that the one that I can control is my physical peace. So I actually tried just Pilates for the first time, the reformer, and it was intense. And that gave me a little bit of mental peace. So now let's get into it. And maybe you can drop in the comments what is giving you peace right now. Let's talk Arizona legislature. So we're gonna go over the good, the bad, and the stalled. So first, I like to start with good news because we need a little bit more positivity. If you remember from priors, in case you missed it, we were very concerned about a bill that would have required doctors, nurses, and hospitals to ask about immigration status. The good thing is that the governor of Arizona vetoed that, so it will no longer become the law here in the state. So nothing has changed, and that's something that we were very excited because a lot of our students and our families were concerned about that. Now let's talk a little bit about the bad of what we have seen. We have seen that there's two bills that we're monitoring, SB 1055 and SB 1156. You can also probably remember from priors in case you missed it, but these two bills would have required a strengthening collaboration between ICE and police officers, and it would have appropriated $20 million with a big M into that collaboration to ensure that any type of local enforcement would get reimbursement for reimbursements for housing people who are here without the proper documentation. So definitely that's something that is very concerning, that it brings back a lot of bad memories about what we have seen here in the state of Arizona. We understand that these propositions, thankfully, they're not yet law, and hopefully, knock on wood, they don't become law. And the way that they cannot become law is by you raising your voice, making sure that you're informing and continuing to pay attention. And we got you here at Aliento where we can kind of recap. So that's something that we've been monitoring, and we'll continue to give you updates on how to stay involved. Now let's talk about the stalled. So we are right now in this interesting time in the Arizona State Legislature. You probably have heard of the crossover week when bills come from the Senate to the House, from the House to the Senate, and then there's a lot of different movements. If you've been keeping up with social media, some elected officials have been there until 5 a.m. in the morning trying to legislate. If you ask me, I don't think that that's the most functional way, but hey, we're not here to criticize, we're here to inform. So right now there's a couple of bills that we're monitoring. One that is stalled that I actually personally really like is called SB 1798 that would have supported FAFSA to create kind of like a directory where there is a point of contact at every school to ensure that we're increasing that kind of college and going culture. So that's what we have for you. Don't let the haters or the bad noise of the world deter your spirit or take away that power that you have within you. Your voice matters, and we need you to speak loud and clear about the things that are going on here in our backyard. Now let's talk DACA. You probably saw on our social media or through other news articles that there has been 261 DACA recipients who have been detained by the Department of Homeland Security, and 86 of those have been deported. This is highly concerning because DACA recipients, just like me, we are protected by this work permit, and they should have not been deported unless you're violating the conditions of your DACA. What is very alarming on outside of that is that we don't know all the details. The Department of Homeland Security, we have seen that they have a track record of not being really transparent about these matters. So then there's no official public record about why these 86 DACA recipients were deported. So we cannot speak whether they were wrongfully or rightfully deported. We just know that we have seen the Department of Homeland Security not really utilizing protocol or abiding to their regular process that we have seen in prior years before this administration. I want to make sure that as we're talking about this, we may hear the number 86 or 261, but we're talking about human beings that have made their lives here, that only know the United States as their only home. And I want to share a little bit about a story that I just learned about Maria de Jesus Estrada Juarez, who is a 42-year-old woman, DACA recipient who resided in California, in Sacramento, has a 22-year-old daughter, had been doing what the government told her to do, which was, if you come forward, tell us, give us all your documentation, we'll protect you from deportation, and we're not going to utilize this to deport you. But that was unfortunately not the reality for Maria de Jesus. She was deported. The Department of Homeland Security cited a 1998 removal order, which she had never really seen. She had never really learned about this or heard this. So definitely our prayers and our thoughts are with her daughter, with her family, with herself, that now after living here in the United States for all her life, now she has to figure out a different way. So we're definitely very concerned about cases like her, and this really hits home. So if you are a DACA recipient or you have a loved one that has DACA status, we are encouraging you to please renew as soon as possible within the 120 and 180 days window that is recommended. We have been hearing more often about delays of DACA recipients. So if you are in that shoes or you have someone you loved in those shoes, make sure you reach out to us through direct message. We don't want your information to be out in public, to ensure that we can support you and help you navigate that process. But it is really hard for us to support you when you're not filing within the deadline. I know that many DACA recipients were weighing out different decisions, because sometimes the renewal process would be really fast and we didn't want to lose that time because it costs a lot of money. So I totally feel you. I have to do my renewals too, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're preventative and that you're not in a really bad situation and you're potentially exposing yourself to a potential deportation. So definitely something else that you can do, just in case if you are maybe like now worry because you heard about Maria de Jesus, who didn't know who had a removal order. Make sure that you are checking in to see whether you may have a specific case, and talking to an attorney would be the best way to go about that. If you don't know where to go, you can always go to our resources, and you're not alone. You don't have to do this alone. We're here to help you navigate it, but it is really important that you don't procrastinate and that you take matters in your own hands as soon as possible. This is a developing story, and we're very, very concerned about some information that we're hearing that banks are potentially weighing in whether to collect citizenship information about their clients. That's something that we're seeing and hearing that the administration is doing a push. We know that in the last In Case You Missed It, we talked about our concerns about the IRS sharing this data with the administration. So we're seeing more and more attempts about different parts of our regular life being impacted, and this administration really going forward to trying to identify folks who are just trying to live their lives. So as I mentioned, this is a developing story. I wanted to put it in your radar, not to scare you, not to make sure that you go into panic, but to really stay alert and to be able to not pass misinformation, but knowing that right now nothing has been secure, but it is a developing story. So we'll be monitoring for you and hopefully bring you the latest news as soon as we know. I know that living in a 24/7 media cycle can create a lot of anxiety, stress, or just feeling pretty overwhelmed with everything that is going on. So I want to ask you to please remember to take care of yourself. You might have a busy life, you might be going through so much, but maybe just take 30 seconds to literally touch grass or go outside and let the sun give you a little sunbathe for 1 minute. I want you to remember that you're not alone. We are in this together. And something that I do know in my bones is that our immigrant community is resilient and it's really powerful, and it sucks that we have to be resilient, but we are also doing this as a community and we're not alone. So if you have any questions, come to us. You can direct message us. You can put comments in the chat chat about topics that you want to see or questions that you may have that are not sensitive. But if anything, you can always just go to our resource page, alientoec.org/resources, and then you have your friends here at Aliento that have your back and are here to remind you that you matter and that we care about you.